But a very warm, loving welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us today on the topic Finding My Success. And just to introduce myself again, my name is Shan, and I'm a motivational speaker, a former radio host, a special needs educator, and also an author of the newly released book, which is right behind me. I'd love to just show you the picture. And it's called Love Layer. I love very pretty things and very relaxing pictures. So yes, that is my forte, is really writing. And I love speaking. And I really enjoy public speaking. And something that I want to talk to everyone today is success. Now, success is about, setting goals, trying to attain it, and that feeling that you get when you've achieved that goal. But along with success comes happiness. A huge amount of the happiness we feel is linked to that success that we are able to achieve. And when we don't reach our goals and we feel that we are being unsuccessful, it often leads to this huge amount of stress, a huge amount of anxiety. And if it not handled correctly, it is what often leads people to reaching a low point in their lives and then becoming depressed. And then it ends up putting our entire lifestyle in a whole rocking boat. So that's something that I really thought was a very appropriate topic, especially considering the situation we now find ourselves in, where the success that we had set for ourselves and where we thought we would be right now in our lives has actually sort of been just ripped away from us because this pandemic called COVID has just hit us, and that is not anyone's fault. So I've got three very, very special guests and three very, very different guests who are going to be giving us their perspectives of what they have seen being happening out there right now in terms of the obstacles that are suddenly hitting us, that people are being overwhelmed with, and their advice as to how to best deal with it and how to regain that belief and find our success once again, despite all these hurdles and obstacles. So my first guest is Chris Smith, and he's a financial advisor. My second guest is Zainab Khan, who is an educator and a mother of a lovely little bounty baby. And my third guest is Zahira Lahar. Oh, I can't say her name, Zahira. And, she is also a life coach. And something very, very special on this little slot of ours today is Zahira will be offering a free coaching session to a random participant. So we hope that you will be sending us messages and questions during the slot and throwing us your opinion about what you find seem to be the hurdles that are preventing us from attaining the success. And we would love to advise you appropriately. So I'm just going to give Chris a quick opportunity to introduce himself in a few sentences, then Zainab, and then Zahira. So go ahead, Chris.
Morning, evening, and afternoon to everybody, depending on. My name is Chris. I'm a financial advisor and I live in the city of Durban, South Africa. My goal basically is to help people achieve their own success. So we're going to be going a bit more in depth about that, and just something that people don't know about me. I'm also an author. That's how Shan and I met. That's been part of my journey to success. So we're going to cover that a little bit later. Looking forward to chatting with you guys.
Over to Zainab.
Hi there, good afternoon to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Zainab Khan, and I am a mother of a 3.5-year-old boy. I'm a wife, and I'm a primary school teacher, ex-high school teacher. So today I'm going to be talking to you and hopefully inspiring you about my journey on finding success and navigating all the challenges during this turbulent period. And yeah, I hope I'll be able to inspire and motivate some of you to help you achieve your own success and some balance in your life.
And over to Zahira. And Zahira, sorry, you can pronounce your name, your surname properly for us.
Well, hi everybody. I am Zahira Leher. I'm a leadership coach, performance coach, and particularly I work as well in the yoga and Pilates sphere. So if I had to just in a quick nutshell, I like to work with leaders. Most important, I like to work with leaders to level up, to transform, and just basically unfold their leadership. So this is why I'm here. Remember, everybody is a leader in their own right. So that's why I'm here. So welcome, everybody. I'm super excited.
Thank you so much, Zahira. So I'm going to start off with Chris. As I've said, this pandemic is something none of us could have ever foreseen. And we all had set our goals for 2020. And I'm pretty sure that there are hardly any of us who are at that point where we thought we would be in October of 2020. So Chris, from a financial perspective, I mean, obviously, one of those elements that are in success, you want to be financially successful as well. So from a financial perspective and from what you're seeing in the corporate environment in the office, as well as from your clients, what can you tell us are some of the hardships that have really hit us?
It's been quite something. I saw something on Facebook the other day that made me chuckle. It was, he had said to you, where do you see yourself 5 years? There's always that question recruiters ask. Don't think anybody would have got that right. So it's one of those economies where people live month to month to month. And I think the biggest challenge has been people not being able to meet their financial commitments. It's created a lot of stress. You have medical aid bills to pay, cell phone bills, rent, payments for your car, those sort of things. It's been a big wake up for a lot of people. People judge themselves as successful by what they have, and COVID's come along and destroyed a lot of those plans and a lot of the perceptions we had. So even in the working world, in my industry, you set tasks yourself, and you aren't able to do that if people are earning. You go out there, you help them and sort out the policies that they need. And I think a big thing about success is you have to realize when something isn't attainable. Financially, you do have restrictions on you, you do have constraints, and we've all had to adapt our goals. So I don't think that, personally, I don't think that not achieving goals doesn't mean you weren't successful. I think surviving the pandemic and surviving lockdown means that you're successful. It's all about seeing what your goals are. Are those goals still attainable? If they aren't attainable, then you just have to shift your goals slightly and go for something that's realistic. A lot of us beat ourselves up because we aren't achieving something that we think we should have been able to achieve. You get stuck with the situation and say, listen, the situation has changed. I'm no longer earning what I was earning. Maybe I had to take a pay cut to actually stay employed. Maybe my business had to close down. I've had a lot of clients like that, construction industry, IT industry, and also restaurant owners. And those people have had to go away, kind of consolidate their position and then come back and access. So a lot of it is to do with mindset and remaining positive. And I think if you've remained positive and you've come out of lockdown, then you are a success.
Thank you for that, Chris. I mean, your words are so true. And, it is something that we really need to do, but it's something that is very difficult. And it's something that we're going to go into later on in the session, because as much as we want to stay positive, that trying to stay positive is always very difficult. And we want to give you those pointers that are going to help you stay positive, because when you don't, that's when you fall into that little bit of a pit of disarray. And that's when your life tends to really start spiraling out of control. So we're going into that.
It's when you feel left alone. It's when you feel like you're alone. A big part of what I've been doing with clients over the lockdown hasn't really been putting in place new business, but it's been sitting with them, finding a way through and holding their hand and just saying there is somebody with you through this time. It's and I think people just need that reassurance. And there's that old saying about a problem shared is a problem halved. That's what people want.
Now, Zainab, success is not something that's only about adults.
Yeah.
When you think about success, it's also a huge amount of it has to do with children, helping your children succeed. So Zainab is going to give us her insight on what's been happening in terms of the education environment, both from the perspective of a teacher as well as from the perspective of a mother. Because a lot of us are thinking success and money and how do we go about, running the house and paying the bond and paying the electricity. But so much of being successful is also about the future. And who are the future? The children are also the future. So Zainab, go ahead and give us your insight on what's really been happening in that area of how the pandemic has affected that area.
Thank you, Shan. Okay, firstly, COVID-19 just threw all of our plans for the academic year out of the window. Things have changed so radically from our modus operandi at school to timetabling, the entire way of this, of running a school, of being a teacher, of being a learner has changed. Sometimes when I'm teaching, I catch myself looking out at these kids with masks in front of me. Some of them look like, because they wear all these patterned masks. It looks like they're from some part of, I don't know, from some sort of a militia group sometimes. And you've got to catch yourself because, you feel like you're teaching in this dystopian era. And you realize, wow, this is the new reality. So there's so many things that have been happening to our learners, and I think that it's right that we focus on the challenges that COVID-19 has now opened up in terms of learning and teaching. From the learner's perspective, learners have lost out a lot of time, and the sad thing is that many of them in the public school setting particularly have no access to technology. They have no access to online learning and teaching, which private school learners have had. So they have now settled into this is a really long holiday. It's like, to be very honest, many learners' greatest, it's like a dream come true. No school for like months at a time. And this is affecting them. They're too little to know and to understand. I'm talking about from a primary school perspective. They're too little to know and understand the far-reaching consequences of not being at school, of not learning certain skills. And they don't realize that it's going to have a ripple effect on them in the future. So for example, we've had to cut down our curriculum really, really drastically. Our assessments have been reduced. Learners are not even coming into school on a daily basis because most schools can't accommodate for the numbers. So we have them in on a day in, day out basis. My brother's in grade 11 at a public school, and he goes to school once a week. So for a learner who needs his results to get into university, he's probably going to have to repeat the year because for the early part of the lockdown, the school was not in a position to provide the learners with online support. So there's a whole lot of challenges coming in that way. So if you take, for example, a grade 4 learner who was absent or who was at home rather because of the lockdown for quite a few months, they're coming into school with like virtually no skills that they should have had or they would have learned at this point. So they're basically like, on the level of a grade 3 learner. And then they're going to have to pass because there's going to be an enormous backlog in the education system. And as educators, we are pressured to make them pass, which means that we've got to drop our standards, we've got to rush through the syllabus. So really, it is the greatest loss is to these children. And the sad thing is that they obviously are too little to really understand and realize it. So it's very frustrating from a teaching perspective, because when you're trying to get through to these learners, many of them sense the frustration of teachers, and they're already in this holiday mindset. It's already the end of the year, and they know that come what may, they're going to be passed as well. So it's really, really been a challenge to keep to these protocols, sanitizing all the time, keeping their masks on all the time, because kids have to be constantly reminded. But teachers are starting to sound like broken records at this point. And so learners are just, they've got a don't care attitude. So I'm speaking, about my particular context. But what the COVID pandemic has really shown me as a teacher is the disparities between learners in the public education system and learners in the private education system. Because my friends and colleagues who are teaching at private schools have been having Zoom classes, have been having Zoom lessons. Some of them didn't even have to cut down their curriculums at all. So it was work as normal for them. But in the public school system, kids got left behind. And honestly, there are some days when I really think about, was this extended lockdown period really necessary? I mean, we've had a few cases of COVID-19 at school, but most of the cases, well, actually all the cases were where the learners brought in the disease or the virus to the school, and it wasn't where they were picking it up from the virus. It wasn't where they were contracting the virus from school. So I think a lot of the media hype about keeping schools shut like that extended two-week period during the peak, honestly, from my perspective, it was a little bit unnecessary, and it just cost teachers a lot of time. It costs learners a lot of time. And there's a lot of damage that has been had. And then if you look at parents, from my perspective, my son isn't old enough to be in a school as yet. He's just 3.5. So you've got parents who are working from home. Now they've got to battle with online learning. They couldn't make it. And so you've got stress at home, stress from school. It's just, and people don't know how to cope with the stress. So yeah, when the learners came back to school, we had to deal with a backlog of learners who were supposed to have been doing online work that we were trying to put up for them to the best of our ability. And we basically had to start from scratch with them. And it's already the end of the year. So the teachers next year are going to have a real problem trying to bring up these learners, bring them up to speed with the skills that they have actually missed out on. Yeah. And from a teacher's perspective, it's also been a logistical nightmare, in many ways. We've had teachers who had to leave to go on comorbidity leave, and then we had to replace those teachers. We had to shuffle the timetable. We've had to teach some lessons 6 times over because we've got alternate groups that come in. At the moment, I have 52 learners in a class because of social distancing. We've got to have them in all every day because they're grade 7s. So I've got to teach them in a hall. I've got to use a mic system. I've got to use a whiteboard. So there's so many challenges. These challenges keep on cropping up. And to be very honest, I just can't wait for the year to be over so we can start afresh in the following year.
Zainab, would be very correct to say it's caused a lot of stigma, not only in South Africa, but across the world, even between countries. And, for people who were already battling with depression, with anxiety, with stress, with, issues of trying to get themselves on a better platform, this entire last few months has really knocked everyone off their feet in a financial perspective, and also from a perspective of being a mum, a teacher, seeing to a family, seeing to a household, things such as that. And now, Zahira, I mean, you're a life coach, so you see a lot of people who have similar problems of, being already overstressed and being already in situations where they want to better themselves, they want to better their lifestyle, they want to find their inner self again and find their self-worth and confidence. And now when you are faced with all these issues, whether you're a parent of a child in school, whether you're a teacher, whether you're in the corporate world, whatever your situation is, how have you been advising them? And what have you been seeing that is different? That is, how do you think these people have had to suffer the worst, and how would you better it as well? So I'm just going to start with you giving advice as well to this situation, as in how to find my success again.
Oh, very fascinating world we are living in. I will definitely say it's nothing we saw coming, but when I look back at it, we're still living it. So when I look back to April when it hit, I think we started with a lot of, everybody got super worried and anxious and depressed because we don't know what's happening. We can't see the next, what's happening next. We cannot tell when it's going to end, when things are going to get better. So
Hello? Zahira? Okay, I think
Uh,
we've lost Zahira a little bit. So yeah, basically, I'm just gonna wait for Zahira to come back. But I want to say we all have a plan. We have that plan and we have goals, and um, just without the pandemic, sometimes when we don't attain those goals in the time frame that we want to attain those goals, that's when we kind of penalize ourselves and just we become too sensitive at times as to why these goals have not been reached and attained. And now on top of that, as I said, this situation of COVID kind of snatched everything away from us, and on top of that we have to deal with that. So for me, in my last presentation, I spoke about when ink can talk and how books can be something that can ease a person's mind, help settle you, help you to unwind, help you to de-stress. And I also want to talk about something called journaling, or the plan on paper. Do we have Zahira back? I don't think we have Zahira back. But something called journaling, or putting your plan down on paper. Now, there are many pros and cons to putting your plan down on paper, because if you put a plan down, you can look at it in a, on a daily basis, a weekly basis, as how I'm going to take things step by step. Because succeeding is not just getting to the top, getting your money, being in a secure situation, feeling that you finally gotten married, you finally got your kids, you finally got everything that the world says is the norm. Because we don't have to be in the norm. We have to know who we are. We have to know what makes us happy, and we need to find that happiness. And that happiness, we don't even have to be someone who is the president of the USA or the UK, or we don't have to be someone who has invented Google. We just have to be somebody who is content and happy with what we have attained in our lives. So I just want to say that, sometimes, especially in this current situation, I would like to advise people not to do too much of journaling in terms of a plan forward, but journaling in terms of what I have achieved yesterday. Yesterday, I took a run on the beach. I did this. Today, at the end of the day, you can write pointers, basically diarize everything. And when you have a chance to reflect upon it, you will be able to feel that pride in that you are trying on a daily basis to reach those goals, and you are succeeding in little ways. And when after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you reflect upon what you've journaled, it makes a massive, massive difference. Just as I said last week, we don't realize sometimes when we feel alone, not last week, sorry, at the last conference, that we don't often realize that when we feel alone, we can turn to a book. In the same way, when we journalize things and we reflect upon the little things that we have done on a daily basis, we feel that pride, and we are able to see what it is that makes us happy, what didn't make us happy on certain days, and we are better able to find ourselves and then hone in on those aspects and then strive towards it, even in these difficult situations. So I see Zahira is back, so I'm going to go back to Zahira. Zahira?
I am back. Fantastic display of what this COVID times has done to us. It's taken us all virtual, and it also shows us what is the holes in the system. So alas, I have no idea, but I'm back, and that's all that matters. So Shan, would you like me just to chat back about just the setbacks from the pandemic? Is that where we left off?
Well, what you would advise other people.
Yes.
Want to talk about any setbacks, but how you would advise people to now find that success again?
Well, I think this is the best time, actually. I always say that the journey is the most difficult, but the most exciting part. I think when you look back at this, what this pandemic has given us is that you've seen so many people from all different walks of life. They either had to step up, they either had to step down, they had to level up. It's it's been absolutely fascinating to watch. But the most important thing, I think, if we're moving forward, would be just to pivot with the times. So when the world went virtual, we had to take everything online. It meant coaching online. It meant giving a yoga class online, which we were so we were so unfamiliar with at the time. We were so used to in person, feeling the room, making people feel good whilst in the room with them. Now suddenly across from a screen, we're having to just recreate that kind of rapport. So I think just to figure out Shan's question was, most important was, I would say, pivoting. Very much importantly, you've got to pivot. The people who haven't managed to pivot, you will always see across board, it's always the same scenario of get with it or you will be left behind. I mean, this fascinating conference that's happening is completely virtual. I mean, we are reaching people from across the globe, and you're not paying hotel fees to attend an event. So there is some upsides to everything that we do. How do you come out of it? It's just sitting with your feelings, understanding who you are. Most importantly, also understanding what makes you tick. As I popped in, Shan was talking about journaling. Journaling is a fantastic tool for us to really understand the self. So if you are a person that you find yourself as a perfectionist, what makes you tick? What are you searching for? Are you trying to look at the rights and wrongs of things and saying, I'm going to let this pandemic get down on me? Or you can look at it from a positive perspective and draw, saying, right now, what can I do? What can I do? How can I level up? And at the end of the day, we cannot change the scenario. And yes, we are waiting for 2021, but there is no guarantee of what's going to happen in 2021. So the only bit of advice I would give anybody would be to stay present with the times and realize where we're at and make use of all of those little things that we have, whether you have lots of what's a better word? We have a lot of things that we can use to utilize or not. You just got to make do with what you have. Inevitably, that's what it's about. So when it comes to kids, Zainab mentioned about kids. I'd say definitely a big question that we asked is, how do you explain to children what we are dealing with? Children are fascinating minds. They are free. They just know how to live within the moment. Now suddenly we're getting kids to wear masks. We're also getting their temperature checked, almost like right on the forehead, which is almost like having a gun pointed to you. What are we trying to teach them? But I think what we always have to do is make your kids feel safe at home, safe in the learning space. And whether it means wearing that mask to keep us safe, that's okay. But it's about teaching them and also, most importantly, helping them understand what's happening rather than dictating. So, yeah. No, go for it. Talk to me, Shan.
I was just going to say as well, when you talk about the lockdown, we can also look at it from a positive perspective. Not only that there was this virus that we do not understand that hit us and we, really couldn't do our daily routine. It also gave us that alone time, whether we were alone with our family or whether we were single people like myself who was just alone and managed to finish a lovely book. But it just gave us time to also introspect and figure out, what was it that was going on in this rushed society, this busy world where we really don't often have time to think. What was it that, we really, really want out of life? What were the moments that if you had to sit and reflect about the lockdown periods in your country, because I think in every country has slightly different lockdown periods. In that time, what were the things that made you the most relaxed, the most happy. Because as I said, success is also very much linked with happiness, because when you find that happiness, you feel successful, whether you're feeling successful as the head of a household, whether you're feeling successful in the workplace, whether you're feeling successful as a businessman or from a financial aspect, it gave you that time. So I wanted to really, well, I'd love to have more chats, but I wanted us to really look at it from a positive as well as a negative, because there are pros and cons for every situation. And the pros that we could have gotten out of this is finding ourselves. And once we really were able to find ourselves, and once we are really able to understand ourselves and what makes us tick most, as Zahira said, we are then able to better strive towards that area, that passion, that inner feeling within us, and even and succeed more in those aspects of our lives. So Zahira, I just want to go back to you because you were talking about what makes you tick most.
Yeah, I think life is just about mastering the self. So whether it means exactly what you mentioned, it's that journaling aspect, finding out who you are. And a lot of people have found during this lockdown period that they really don't enjoy the work they're doing. And a lot of people have maybe changed careers. Um, a lot of people have also added to their what they do. So a lot of people have taken their work online, figuring out how they can earn more money, but in a way that can keep them happy. Because yes, happiness 100% correlates to how it makes you feel, how you succeed, particularly in life. It also has a lot to do with what motivates you in life. So I personally say that the mastery of the self is probably the best and most difficult journey you're going to go on. And this lockdown period has given people so much of time to actually do this. Time is a gift. I always have a saying that people speak about, and it's quite funny the way that you go, I have 24 hours, but so does Beyonce. Everybody asks the same question, why is Beyonce so successful? It's because she loves what she does. She knows how to also keep and make time for herself right at that moment when things are crazy, like a tornado. So again, the world did have to take us on a complete pause to get a lot of people to learn more about themselves, to learn more about what is your strengths. How do you work with other people when you are not in the room with them? What are your thoughts? What's running through your mind? Are you being positive about life? Are you being negative? And I do think that yes, people's situations are difficult, very, very difficult. But if you have the right mindset, I think a lot can be achieved, right? Just with having the mind in the game. So that's what I would say.
Thank you so much for that, Zahir. Because like one of the main key points that I wanted to raise in this discussion today is majority of the people in society are so busy moping about this situation that has occurred, how they had to, as you said, adapt themselves. But adapting themselves could also mean that they had to look at what they did like doing, look at other aspects of themselves, what are their real sides, and then go for it, because that's what I want you all to all do after this. Figure out what's your success and say, look, it doesn't matter about the pandemic. It doesn't matter about what made us put the pause button. But if we are not doing it today, we can do it in the future, because the Rome wasn't built in a day. The pyramids of Giza weren't built in a day. We can do it and we will do it. And we had this time, and it could have honestly been done for a reason. And I think it was done for a reason if you look at it from, if you had to go into the spiritual aspects of it, that everything happens for a reason. And yeah, that's very much one of the key things that I wanted us all to think about, because there are a lot of good that is going to be coming out after we are able to uh, recover and understand ourselves and recover what direction we want to go in. So I do see some questions. So I just want to glance at the questions quickly. So Deborah has said that being a trauma therapist, I'm finding clients are not liking connecting with themselves. It's highlighting their old wounds. So I want to know if any of you in particular would like to touch on that question.
Yeah, I think Deborah's 100% right there. If you're in a depressed state or you've had some sort of trauma, you've got time to reflect on it, and that time's not always good, especially by yourself. That's why what I mentioned earlier about having somebody positive around you, that's crucial. You need that interaction the whole time. My release during lockdown was to write. I'm writing books, the first one published on Amazon, and if I didn't have that, I don't know what I would have been doing. Would have been going crazy. So I think Deborah's 100% correct there. It goes back to having some positive influence in your life, and being isolated isn't always a good thing. So you have to be able to, even if you can't see the person face to face, you need to be able to pick up the phone, WhatsApp, jump onto Zoom, something like that. So 100% there, Deborah. I find that with a lot of my clients at the moment. They're scared, they don't know what they can afford, what they can't, they're worried about money, and sometimes they just need to talk to.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
what I find is, you have to treat them like family, because if they're scared, they don't know what's going to be happening with their work, if they'll still have a job.
I do a lot of networking, and I've been saying to everybody that I network, it's not the people that you're still seeing online, it's the people that you're not seeing that you need to look out for. Yeah. I connected with somebody this morning, actually, before I logged on. And she was a successful, or should I say, is a successful wedding planner. And of course, the wedding planning business has died because of everything. And she was an award-winning wedding planner. And it was important for her to be up there, at the point of success, always at our meetings saying, I've won another award, here's another award, and now nothing. So I've connected with her, and just, out of the blue, to say, hi, how are you? And she's really in a dark place. So I said, let's have a coffee. I don't want a coffee. She doesn't even want to connect. And there's an awful lot of people out there that, unfortunately, it's hitting hard with people that are very, very successful. I was very lucky that on lockdown day, I went straight online, and I'm able to do my therapy online. But there's pardon?
Network through. What is your networking connection?
It's various groups that I belong to. Most of them now have gone online. So it was actually physically going to meetings and connecting with local people. But of course, now I've gone online, here I am. Priscilla wouldn't have found me if I hadn't gone online, so here I am connecting with you guys, which is great. So for me, personally, I love it. I love working from home anyway, which I've done for many years. But to actually go online, I probably wouldn't have, I thought about it, but it was on the back burner. But being forced into that, it's actually, I run with it. It's working, and it's working really successfully. So I've been able to carry on with my business, but unfortunately there's so many people that can't.
I think a thing you need to do there is maybe get a few other people to reach out. People during these times, people want to feel loved. They want to feel that somebody cares about them, and there's somebody out there who cares what happens to you. That's an important feeling.
Definitely.
So I encourage a few of the other people from your networking groups to reach us as well, wedding planner.
Yeah, will do.
And maybe they can find a different avenue for her to get involved in until we come out of the lockdown. Because like I said, my business slowed down quite a bit. It was more hands and helping people and reshaping their goals and actually doing business. So the West and just gave me an outlet, and it gave me something to focus on and kept my mind busy. When your mind's not busy, you have time to go, and that's when depression can kick in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's so many people that are, going back to this lady, that are successful, but they fill their lives. A lot of our clients, you know, if you are therapists, which I'm sure most of you are, they fill their lives with work, with the gym, with going out, with socializing. So they don't have to face them. They don't have to face their inner self. And when all that at the moment has been stripped back, you know, we are stripped back, we are naked, we have to face ourselves in the morning, there's nobody else there, and they don't like what they see, you know. And you either you know, we've had to diversify, haven't we? So we've had to change our attitudes and go, okay, this isn't working, what else can I do? I mean, through networking, there's another person that I know who's a magician, and he was out doing loads of events, and of course the event business died. But he's now changed his approach to being a mindset therapist or something. You know, he's just changed it to actually saying, you know, I can read minds, a bit like Jerome Brown, if you know him. You know, I can read your mind and I can help you with your success in your business and so on. So it's really interesting. You either thrive or you don't, but then if you don't, then get the help if you can.
But I think, you know, something that you know, even Priscilla's raised in the chat is very much going outside your comfort zone. And you know, Deborah, as you said, you wouldn't have really networked online if it hadn't have been for the pandemic. And you had a routine, you had a daily routine, and I'm sure you pretty much stuck to your daily what all of us did. You know, once we become adults, we go into a certain profession or our passions, and we stick to that daily routine, and we stick to it probably for the rest of our lives. But yeah, now this has changed us in terms of it's given us ways to, as Chris said, network with people outside across the world, and it's made us go out of our comfort zone. And for people, someone who is a wedding planner, and I know lots of people who have owned restaurants. I've got many colleagues who were owners who now have, well, I've advised them and they've done this, and they're actually starting to trying to find themselves again, where they've had to give up their business, they've lost the business, but it doesn't mean the end of the world, but it does mean a restart.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with pressing the start.
Absolutely. I mean, I saw a beautician yesterday who is a new to me, and I went and had some beauty treatments done yesterday. And she spoke to me about, I've only been in this salon for a year. They're now pushing me to renew my rent. Should I, you know, I don't know what to do. And I said, I think it's a time to just almost like, as I say, stripping back naked and just going, do you know what? Just close the business, but not close her business, close the salon, go back to her log cabin, because she's got a lovely log cabin in her back garden, which she used to use when she worked at home. It's not the end. So at the end, you know, once you come out of this, and we will come out of it, to actually say, okay, now I can go back out and get a salon again.
But that's also, it's not just a person, like I think a lot of us, human nature, we have that certain amount of pride where we feel we've reached this level. We don't want to go lower than that level a little bit, but sometimes it's necessary to take so many steps backwards to go take 5 steps backwards in order to take 10 steps forwards again, for example. So it's just making the person understand that even just admitting that, all right, I'm not meeting this goal right now, but if I start again from a lower level, I am still being successful. Absolutely. Because I'm attempt to start, to go and get it again, but in a different way. So it's just kind to understand that.
Yeah.
Just from a financial perspective as well, I think something we have to look at is different perceptions. There's, as I said before, you've got to change your goals. It's not always option A or option B. Deborah's mentioned highlights that perfectly. What about option C? Instead of renewing the rental for a full year, can she not negotiate with the owner and say, can we not do it on a month-to-month basis, so that you can then see what's happening, how the business is going? Because people are being a lot more flexible about like that. Dealing with Liberty, for example, there were premium holidays for RAs. You could drop the amount of cover you had and get it reinstated later within reason. So I think the lockdowns made us be a lot more flexible in terms of what our goals are, and also how we approach problems. There's no longer just A or B, black or white. Sometimes you need to go into the gray and look at option C.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris.
I know Zainab, you had put your hand up earlier, so I think you had wanted to add to the discussion.
Yeah, it was with reference to Deborah's comment about how the lockdown put people in touch with their past traumas, and it wasn't really comfortable for them to look into the mirror and have to face their inadequacies or their past traumas. And I thought that a sector of our society that was really affected by this lockdown was the I don't know, the senior citizens or the older people. For example, I have a neighbor who's 80 something, and because of the rules of our building, her son wasn't able to visit. And so she's alone on a daily basis. She's too scared to go out to get her shopping done because she's so frail and fragile in terms of her health. So she had to rely on other people to do her grocery shopping for her. But she was just living in this reality of being alone, stark staring alone, for a few months. So sometimes you also have to just shift our perspectives. And although it may be difficult for us coping with the new reality, we must think about what it's like for those people who are less fortunate and less physically able than ourselves as well. Because those feelings of despondency can now spiral out into something much bigger. And then they start feeling that, they're not wanted, nobody cares about them. And it's really important to, every few days for me to just check up on her, see if she was okay, get her something from downstairs if she needed it. The same with my grandparents as well. So the older people have really felt the impact of this, especially since, they need other people to move around. Sometimes they just need to leave their homes. I know my grandmother was in her flat for about 5 months, just in her flat, because she was too afraid of going out. So yeah, we just have to uplift the people around us. Definitely, although we may have our own set of problems, we also have to look at the fact that we are privileged, especially if we're younger. We have a mode of transport, or we know that we're younger, so we can combat the virus better than older people. So we have to think about those people. We can't just, forget about them, because they are members of our society, and they, I think, more than anyone, really need you to reach out every now and again. Just, hey, I know you're here. Are you okay? Do you need anything? And just provide them with that source of comfort, and the fact that that they're there, and they know that you care about them. Sometimes it's something just as as small as that can really make a difference and sort of break the monotony of their lives. And many of them are still actually living under a lockdown, although it's officially over for many of us. We're going about our daily routines. There's some older people who are still so scared to venture out of their homes because they're afraid of contracting the virus. And, older people are sort of very, I wouldn't say susceptible, but, they really take a lot of the things that they read on social media and they watch on television to heart. So they're very paranoid, and they're very anxious, and they're very worried, and rightfully so. So we have to take that into account, definitely. This pandemic hasn't just affected us in terms of the our financial state, the education. It's also affected the older people, the older generation. Some of them, haven't been able to do what they usually do, even if it's just take a walk outside to get some fresh air. And that can have a really negative impact on their mindsets, because a lot of old people like to do all these little things to keep themselves occupied. And now there's just nothing, absolutely nothing for them. So we just have to lend out a hand now and again, definitely. It'll make us feel more fulfilled as well.
Now, I think every single one of us can make a difference. And when this whole lockdown and pandemic first started, I remember it was, I'm not quite sure whether it was Italy or France, but one of the European countries where I first saw younger people going out there to make a difference. And, for the people who were unable, like the older people, standing on rooftops, playing some music, doing some exercises, getting everybody involved, but showing that there was still that unity. And that was very, very touching. Like Zainab says, even if you're waving to someone out of the window and you're not going and actually physically being in contact because you're too afraid, everything makes a difference, especially those dances that has made the Jerusalem song such a famous song. But I mean, it was, nobody asked someone to go stand on a rooftop and do Zumba and exercises for all the people who were just watching from their windows. But it was done, and it was just one person's initiative. And then all of us can make a difference, and all of us can influence those people who are still feeling lost, who are still feeling traumatized from business losses and those kind of things. Assist them to try to find themselves and regain a feeling of success and happiness. And Zahira, you've been quiet for quite a while. I just want to go back to you to see how you can add and what you'd like to say, because we're pretty much rounding off the session.
Yeah, I've actually been listening very carefully to what everyone has to say. And I think every person, Chris, Deborah, Zainab, and everyone in the comments have said absolutely wonderful comments about helping others. It's very important. I really do agree. But I think if I had to go back to what Deborah had mentioned earlier about her comment was about finding out about the self, and people were afraid to connect with themselves. I think it's such a fascinating time for us to actually realize what our fears are. I mean, there's so many people that I personally work with that you can actually, who will mention that they are afraid to find out who they really are. We can distract ourselves in so many different ways, doing so many different things. Now, put you right at home. Now you have to say, wow, do I like myself? And if you like yourself, that's probably the biggest journey. If that's the best journey you're going to go on, you've got to learn to like yourself. And if there are things that you don't like about yourself, go off and change them, or learn to like the things that are not as bright as the things that are pretty bright in your life. And then I would say very important thing to consider is, as much as we want to help the whole world or all the people in the community, we must also never forget about ourselves. Giving is an honor, but at the same time, you've got to, that famous saying about putting your oxygen mask on first, whether it means waking up in the morning and having a good old dance in the morning just to make yourself happy at the same time before you give to everybody else. I'd say look after you right at the same time, and you'll see you'll have much more to give. If we don't, it's similar to just, they always say if you keep sweeping, like a dog craps on the floor and you keep sweeping it under the rug, eventually it's going to smell. You've got to just dig in, find out who you are. I'm glad you like that one. It's very important. You've got to spring clean, and spring cleaning doesn't mean just the things around us. It's from the inside, and the only person that can do it is you. So whether you have that beautician who is a little bit, I would say, even confused about life was going perfectly, now I have to find a new way. It also means for her to take a little bit of spring cleaning, finding out what does she actually want. Does she want to pay the rent? Does she see herself next year or in 2 years' time still having that beautiful salon? You got to check in. Is that what you want? What is the long game that you play? When you play the long game, it also means you can set bigger goals, you can achieve much more, but also staying present in the moment and also not missing life as you go, so you're not so focused on the future. Yes, a very, very, very lovely tightrope that we walk on, but very important. But all I can say is my point would be to anybody is put your oxygen mask on first, whether it means reading that book that Shan spoke about, whether it means journaling, whether it means writing like Chris does, whether it means for Zainab maybe it means spending more time with the little one. It's all just, or even just growing the way she works in the classroom. Maybe just enjoying the fact that those little colorful masks are pretty fancy. I mean, people have gotten pretty darn creative. And it's just about leveling up is all I can say. Yeah.
Thank you. And we've pretty much, I know Zainab would love to say something, but we've pretty much gotten to the end of the session. And because I know many of you will want to go to the next live event, I'm going to get to that point where one of you is actually going to get a free coaching session from Zahira. And thank you so much for participating. So it's going to be someone who has participated in the chat group with a comment or even just for the effort of contributing positively to the discussion. So I'm going to allow Zahira to give that prize out.
Oh man, Shan, I thought you were gonna pick that. Don't leave all of them. That's too much of pressure.
Okay, Chris, would you like to do it?
Yes, let's hand it over. Chris, you pick.
Chris, the man in the group.
You pause, Chris.
Yes, no sound.
Sorry. Okay, let me take a look and see who's been commenting a lot here. Looks to me like Owen. Yeah, Owen was quite a lot.
Is Owen very much stunned?
Hi, Owen. We can't see your face, but that's exciting. Congrats.
Okay. Congratulations, Owen. You're going to get to have a free individual coaching session with Zahira. So if you could just type your email address, and Zahira will also type her email address. And then after we've done that, I will wish everybody, well, I can wish everybody now a very, very wonderful Saturday and enjoy the conference. And I hope this has been a huge influence for the future for all of you, an extremely positive one. And I know I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know our guests have, and I look forward to connecting with all of you in the future. So remember, Zahira?
Yeah.
Can you just put your email address in case anyone else wants to just contact you as well?
Sure, I shall. I'm typing it out as we speak.
Okay.
Right. Let me type this out.
So enjoy the next session. You've got Zahira's details, you've got Chris's details. And yes, I don't do individual coaching sessions. Otherwise, I would give my details as well. But thank you so much for joining us, and all the best to all of you. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good luck.